Okay, so everybody, in this solo episode of Autoimmune Rehab, we are going to talk about what to do if you suspect a thyroid problem. So, whether you're feeling exhausted, gaining weight for no reason, or just not feeling like yourself, it really could be your thyroid. So, I'm going to talk with you a little bit about what to do, like I said, if you suspect a thyroid problem. And another aspect that I also want to bring up here is that if you have been to the doctor already, been told that all your labs are normal, yet you feel really tired, have brain fog, have, digestive issues, have other things that you feel like are going on, you're just not getting the answers you need, there is a very good chance that there's something going on with your thyroid. Now, you may have some additional health issues as well. The thyroid controls a lot more things in your body than a lot of us realize. And thyroid problems, let's put it this way, they're not normal, but they are common. And so, and doctors a lot of times really struggle to really do a good job of getting the proper thyroid labs for a variety of different reasons. And so if you suspect a thyroid problem, but yet you're being told for some reason you don't actually have one, then let's talk a little bit about what you can do about that and what some of the common signs are that your thyroid might in fact be out of balance. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk with you about is what are some of the signs that you might actually have a thyroid problem. So the first sign is if you have persistent fatigue even after full night's sleep. Second sign could be like dry skin and thinning hair, or even if your hair even like falls out. There can also be other reasons for it, but a lot of times the thyroid sign can be one of them. Also, if you have cold hands and feet, or even if your temperature, if you struggle a little bit and feel like you're cold more frequently than you should be, even in situations where it's probably a little bit warmer and yet you still feel cold. Or other temperature issues. So, like, for example, if your body temperature, generally speaking, runs cooler, meaning, not only do you not have a fever, but it's like you're almost like the opposite of that. That could be a sign that there's something going on with your thyroid. Also, if you have difficulty with your weight gain and losing weight, that can be a sign that something in your thyroid's off. Brain fog or memory issues can also be a thyroid issue. Mood swings, anxiety or depression, irregular periods or fertility issues can be a sign that something's off with your thyroid. Constipation or slow digestion. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that can be off because of the thyroid. And one or two of these on their own can be some other kind of a problem. And, it doesn't necessarily mean you have a thyroid issue, but a combination of things, or really any of these things, at least is worth looking into a deep dive about your thyroid. So, what do you do if you suspect a thyroid problem? You feel like you have some of these symptoms and you think there might be something going on with your thyroid. So, the first thing you want to do is to get real good testing. But you don't want just the basic TSH test that a lot of doctors run. So, what you want is a real full thyroid panel. So, this is going to include TSH, but you also want things like your free T3, your free T4, your reverse T3, your TPO antibodies, and thyroglobulin antibodies. And these antibodies are what determines if you have Hashimoto's, which is what I was diagnosed with back in 2018, that started my whole journey to autoimmune healing and, ultimately led to me starting this podcast, and is the autoimmune condition of the thyroid. And you will probably, I have to tell you right now, that if you go to just any run-of-the-mill doctor and ask for a complete thyroid panel, they probably will not give it to you. You have to really advocate for yourself. You have to really insist that you get it. And you may even have to get it through a direct-to-consumer lab. You may have to go see some kind of a functional medicine doctor, a naturopath, a chiropractor, or acupuncturist, something like that. Because I know for me, it took about 4 or 5 tries with 3 different doctors for me to finally get it. And in fact, even when I had a naturopathic doctor that tried to have me go get it through the lab the first time, they wouldn't do it, probably because they thought the insurance wasn't going to cover it or something. And so then he had to redo it, and I had to pay out of pocket to have it done there at their office in order to finally get it. Now, fast forward to, as of the date of this recording, it's been going on almost 6 years now. And now that I have that diagnosis, I don't have a problem getting it anymore. But I also work with, functional medicine doctor as well, who, is aware that I have to have that testing. But in the beginning, I had a really hard time getting it. A lot of people do. So just be aware that you may have to pay out of pocket. If you have like flexible spending account or HSA funds, you can use those. But you may initially have to pay for that initial test to get the full panel, just to convince them that there's probably something going on. And then hopefully once you've got an actual diagnosis, then, it shouldn't be as big of a deal. But unfortunately, it really can be really hard in the beginning to get that full panel run. And then the next thing you want to do is, while you're waiting for the labs or waiting for the doctor, there's some things that you can begin doing to help support your thyroid right now. So a couple things would be eating whole foods diet with thyroid, loving foods, things like selenium that comes in things like Brazil nuts, eggs, sunflower seeds, zinc, it's in pumpkin seeds, chickpeas, and shellfish, iodine from sea vegetables, if you can tolerate those, B vitamins and iron, and also avoid processed foods, gluten, and sugar if at all possible, because these foods specifically can increase inflammation and stress the thyroid further. Now, some people, in fact, most people I think feel like can benefit from at least temporarily also giving up things like dairy and corn and soy, things like that. So, but you kind of learn over time to figure out how things go with your specific body. Then you also want to work on managing stress. So chronic stress can suppress your thyroid function. Start doing some things like breath work, journaling, walks in nature, and prioritizing rest to help with your healing. Then the third thing you want to do is to check your household toxins. So you want to swap out endocrine disrupting products like conventional cleaning supplies and plastics for safer thyroid-friendly options. And get support, and don't go it alone. So you want to, find somebody who's willing to help you with the journey of helping to heal your thyroid. So anyhow, hopefully you found this helpful. I have quite a few other episodes about the thyroid, including several people that have shared their journeys with Hashimoto's, which is the more common autoimmune of the thyroid. But I've got a couple of interviews with people that have had Graves' disease, which is the other autoimmune of the thyroid, and things like that. So you can seek out and listen to some of the other episodes related to thyroid health. And of course, find a time to chat with me if you want to do that. In the meantime, I hope that you found some of this episode helpful. And like I said, and like I always tell a lot of people, if you suspect that you have a thyroid problem, you probably do. Simply just because these are, like I said, they're not considered normal, but they are considered common. So, you suspect a thyroid problem, I would be very surprised if you don't have one. If you think that you have one, you probably do.